Judges, competitors, friends. Our thesis? Family business dynamics, exploring factors of commitment in an era of technology. My name is Hannah, and I'm handling the introduction. This is David. He's one of the pilot testers for our survey. In the Philippines, his family runs a motorcycle business, and in it, he holds an informal role. His dream is to be a diplomat, but today, he manages operations and auditing. How would passion affect his job satisfaction? If the business underwent a technological evolution with e-commerce, digital marketing especially, how would it affect him? Would he be threatened by technology? David's not alone. More than 75% of businesses in Southeast Asia are family-owned. In the IBA department especially, a lot of us have our own family businesses back home, and those who don't might want to start their own in the future. Today's youth, young family successors like us, we seek passion, autonomy, and purpose in our work. Would David's job satisfaction increase if it was his passion to run the business? Would he stay committed if it was his dream to be there?
Hello everybody, my name is Justin. Few studies explore both workload and techno insecurity simultaneously. Even fewer account for organizational commitment or role salience, especially in the context of family businesses. Moreover, the few studies that touch on more than one of these topics are often fairly dated. Our study seeks to both expand upon previous research as well as update them for a more modern age. As you can see, this here is our research aim. Our research seeks to answer these three core questions. How do workload and technical insecurity influence job satisfaction? How does job satisfaction affect organizational commitment? Does work role salience moderate the impact of workload on job satisfaction?
Hi, I'm Axel. I'll be handling research review. Our study is based on these two main theories. JDR explains when your job demands like workload is higher than your resources like support, feedbacks, and salary, you more likely feel as happy with your job. On the other hand, CR explains that when somebody feels the job is the most important part of his life, he will conserve time and energy by investing those to cope with the job demands.
Hi everybody, my name is Matthew. I'll be covering the definitions. The first one is workload. It is the amount of work that is assigned to you with a specific time frame. The next one is role salience. It's how you assign importance to your specific life goals. Take, for example, being a student and being a worker. If you put importance to being a student more, you are more likely to invest time, energy, and emotion to being a student than being a part-time worker. The next one is technical insecurity. It's the fear that new technology will replace you or make your value seem less valuable. Job satisfaction. It is how you feel about your job. It is your fulfillment, contentment, and positive feeling towards your job, responsibilities, and its environment. And the last one, organizational commitment. It is how committed you are to an organization. In this case, family business. It also determines how likely you are to stay committed and support their goals. Now, I'll walk you through the hypothesis that we've developed. The first one is workload negatively impacts job satisfaction. Very simple idea. The higher your workload is, the less satisfied you are. However, this is not the same for everyone. People with high workload salience, given the same high level amount of workload, will still feel satisfied. Why? Because they find importance in their job and their role. The next one, technical insecurity negatively impacts job satisfaction. If you feel the threat that technology will replace you one day, or make your skill seem less valuable, you're more likely to feel less satisfied about your job. And the last one, job satisfaction positively impacts organizational commitment. Very simple idea. If you like your work, you're satisfied with it, you are more likely to stay committed with your organization. Now, this is our summary. Why does all of this matter? Because with this, it helps family businesses support their employees better. Second, it helps them design goals and strategies. Ultimately, those two will help strike a commitment in the era of digital transformation.
Now that you have seen the literature review and hypothesis, I'm Kate and I'm going to walk you through our methodology and data analysis. We conducted a quantitative survey and used a mix of confident, purposive, and snowball sampling to gather responses. The scales we measured were level, role selling, economic security, job satisfaction, and organizational commitment. A pilot test was conducted to ensure clarity and reliability. And the data was collected via Google Forms from March 3rd to 31st, 2025, reaching a total number of 136 participants, both online and in person. And to measure our constructs, we used S-level and validated scales. Each item was rated using a 5-point Likert scale from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And judges, you may refer to it in the appendix A2. And here's our demographic. Most of our participants were female, age 45 to 54, with a bachelor's degree. For the location of the businesses, most of our participants came from the Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia, and a small handful of Taiwan. More than half of the businesses our participants came from had a range of 1 to 10 employees. The majority were either the owner or the relative of the owner, all of whom are currently employed in their family businesses. The two major industries are retail, wholesale, and F&B. Now moving on to our data analysis. First, we test the reliability using construct alpha. It shows that our constructs are reliable, although workload and organizational commitment scores lower than the other. We proceeded based on the previous values. Next, we ran Pearson correlation to explore the relationship among variables. It shows that our constructs, they are not overlapping. Now the last one, then we proceed to the regression analysis to test the strength and the direction of each relationships. Okay, hypothesis 1, workload negatively affect job satisfaction. Supported. Hypothesis 2, role selling strongly moderate the relationship between workload and job satisfaction. Supported. Hypothesis 3, technical insecurity shows a negative trend, but it's not statistically significant. Unsupported. And the last one, hypothesis 4, job satisfaction strongly drive organizational commitment.
With that, we move on to our discussion. Based on our data, when you have a higher workload, it leads to lower job satisfaction. This corroborates with previous research. This means that when you have more work to do, you're less happy. However, the correlation is mild, indicates that a small workload increase would not have that much of an impact on job satisfaction overall. Now, we consider work role salience. We found a positive correlation between it and workload. When somebody has a really high workload, but also high work role salience, they can manage that workload easier. In other words, work role salience buffers the negative effect that workload has on job satisfaction.
Our study found that while technical security has a negative relationship to job satisfaction, it is not statistically significant. And here's how we interpret it. Let's review our demographics. Most of our respondents had businesses located in Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, and small proportion in Taiwan. Most of them are in retail, wholesale, and F&B sector. The first reason of why the security is not significant in our study is because many of these businesses in Southeast Asia especially, they're still operated manually or semi-officially. For example, in Indonesia, there's only 27% of small and medium enterprises have a comprehensive digital transformation strategy. While in the Philippines, there have been 5 major barriers to digital adoptions, including poor internet infrastructure, limited digital skills, and funding gaps. In Thailand, the SMEs are at digitally indifferent stage due to the lack of customer data, digital skills, and digital mindset. These conditions lead to a lack of exposure of employees to automation and advanced digital systems. It is proven that 56% of Southeast Asia SMEs operate at a basic level of digital adoptions. They only use email, personal computers, and mobile phones. And last but not least, work-life balance, low wages, and limited career growth are the main pressing concern of workers in Southeast Asia. Social security still exists, but it's not significant. Our study also found that job satisfaction has strong and positive relationship to organizational commitment. This means that when employees feel more satisfied with the job, they significantly will stay committed to the organization.
To build upon what Hannah and Excella discussed, our findings indicate that workload, as hypothesized, negatively impacts job satisfaction. However, this adverse impact can be mitigated when individual exhibits high role savings. The study ultimately enhances our understanding of workload's multidimensional impact on employee well-being, as well as offers new insights into existing theories regarding work-life balance. The study serves to provide actionable insights for businesses here in East and Southeast Asia, offering role savings as a new tool to help reduce employee burnout, even in the face of high workload demands. In contrast, technical insecurity resulted in non-significant findings, suggesting that within our sample study, the impact of technical insecurity is actually relatively negligible. That being said, the age of automation and AI is still in its infancy. As the age of automation progresses, the significance of technical insecurity will likely increase, providing an opportunity for future studies to build upon our findings. Our findings also suggest that job satisfaction is a very strong predictor of organizational commitment, indicating that by addressing concerns over workload and role savings, family businesses can significantly boost employee retention, allowing them to more smoothly navigate the transition into the age of automation. Throughout our study, we encountered a handful of limitations. Most of them were fairly common. Take, for example, biases from self-reported data, as well as a relatively small sample size that may have affected our data quality. The most significant limitation we encountered was a very high multicollinearity when running linear regression with mediation and moderation. The two similar data sets caused inconsistencies in the calculations, resulting in a very high multicollinearity. However, by standardizing the variables and using stepwise linear regression, we were able to solve this issue. As we were capable of running mediation analysis, future studies can also build upon our findings by redoing the study with mediation analysis. In addition, a larger and more diverse data set will offer higher quality data to analyze. To come full circle, I would like to close this out by offering a hopeful message for employees like David. As David assumes greater responsibility in the motorcycle business, he perceives his work as an increasingly important part of his life. Despite putting his dreams on hold, his passion for his work makes his burden easier to carry. Today, he works to improve his digital fluency, preparing him to deal with the looming threat of technology tomorrow. He finds great meaning in his work and intends to assume even greater responsibility in the future as he reasserts his commitment to the family business.
And that's all for our thesis on family business dynamics, exploring factors of commitment in an era of technology. Once again, I am Hannah.
I'm Matthew. Justin.
I'm Kate. I'm Axela.
Thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you so much, Group 3. Now we can begin our Q&A session. Judges, do you have any questions for the team?
Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. I want to applaud the presenter that said high multicollinear. Moderation analysis. Wow. No, that's excellent. But, you know, besides just having really good skills with regards to language. The only thing that I would recommend that could change your particular presentation, because I have a lot to recommend, is the idea of using this idea of David bookend. I mean, that was very, very well done. And to draw in several points throughout what you were presenting, where it would refer to David as your example, your prototype, the kind of individual. But I just want to say thank you, because there was a lot of effort and made a lot of risks. So a lot of good choices there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Very interesting study, because I think most of us, when we look at a lot of case study, we always look at big companies, big brands, but family business are always underlooked. So I'm very impressed with the topic that you choose. Just one question I would like to ask about is when, for example, like David would like to be, he wants to become a diplomat, but later on he gives up and goes back to the family business. And I'm concerned about his job satisfaction, because the influence power from his parents will influence his job satisfaction. So if he can work independently, okay, I have my power to control my business, so it will be good. But if the parents is keep controlling him, so maybe he will have very low satisfaction. So did you ever consider this factor in your research design?
May I?
Sure.
Yes, of course. Actually, for full disclosure, David is my brother, so his parents are my parents. And I can say he is very satisfied. But if we apply this to others, your concern is that we're controlled and everything. Like we said in the beginning of our presentation, that people like us want autonomy and freedom in our work. That's definitely something to consider, and a very good idea for future research to fully delve into. Thank you.
I really like your presentation. About things, when I'm looking at your topics like family business, right? So have you ever think about if we put the same structure in the big company, will they have a different result? I'm not sure.
Would anyone else like to take this question? Because we get points every time somebody answers. So can't be just me, guys.
So actually, unfortunately, that did not fall within the scope of our study. However, that is definitely something worth looking into for future studies. As far as whether or not it will actually impact larger companies, family businesses can actually range from like fairly small, like just a handful of employees to a few hundred. So there is a possibility, definitely can, but that did not fall within the scope of our study. Thank you so much for your question.
One more question. Since I think your main target is the second generation of the family business, right? But while I check in your sampling, your participants, some are employees. So the employees will encounter the same questions of the second generations.
Thank you for that follow-up question. To clarify, it's not just the second generation. We viewed family business overall, and some of the business included up to the fourth generation, actually, and some of them were still in the first generation. And to answer your question on the employees, yes, they got the same questions, because we were hoping that if we got a larger sample, we would be able to somehow compare because we used 5-point Likert scales, we wanted to compare hopefully between the employees and the owners for their role salience, which is how important they view their work roles. That's why we included employees, not just owners.
You briefly touched on, actually, first of all, just echoing the rest of the judge, that was a great presentation, thank you very much. I just wanted to, you brought up briefly at the end sort of the rise of AI. And I'm sure there's not a professor in the room who would disagree if I said that every single one of our students uses AI to some degree or another, which is fine if it's used in the right context. I'm not talking about at all. But being that technology changes so quickly now, almost on a monthly basis, what could we do to sort of make sure that the references that you're using and the studies that you're using or basing your study on are up to date enough to keep some of the technological movements in mind?
Okay, any further questions? May I confirm again your questions? James? Yeah, Professor James asking whether, how we, confirm that our study is up to date. because we're talking about AI and the automations. However, we unfortunately want to say that we only cover data security as one part of our studies. We could mention that all of the studies are often very, very, very up to date. And as you can see, the references, it relates to data security. All of them are mostly like 2017 up. And that's how we make sure that our study is very dated. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody.